This is Sean Wood from Human Pilots AI. We recorded this executive presentation for the fourth quarter of 2025. Myself, Matt Fangman, and Greg Storey, we did this on Zoom, but we forgot to record our faces. So I just wanted to put my face up here at first. Let's jump into it. If you want to get the full report, just check out the description below. Our executive briefing today is going to share a strategic perspective for all of you that are driving AI at your organization. We're going to talk to you about what we're seeing, and so let's get into it. I started Human Pilots in 2023 as a strategic advisory. I'm working with leaders and their teams to navigate AI with confidence. Today, I'm joined by senior advisors Matt Fangman and Greg Storey. Matt leads major transformations and learning programs that connect business vision and strategy, and Greg Storey creates enablement programs of all shapes and sizes. Greg recently published a book on AI called Creative Intelligence. Don't ask AI, think with it. And it's about AI collaboration and literacy. It's really good, and you should check it out. Together, we've been designing these human AI programs for enterprise and mid-market clients. In working with Matt and Greg, it helped me realize that I needed to share out what I've been seeing these past few years with generative AI. I've been working with real executives in the trenches. So the goal here today is to give you a different perspective about what's really going on in the market. So we're going to share an approach that we've developed that is relevant to what we see going forward, as well as some self-diagnostic questions at the end. As we get towards the latter part, you're going to want to grab a pen and paper or just take notes off to the side. If we look at Q4 2025, we have definitely reached a critical moment in AI business transformation. This fourth quarter marks a shift from experimentation to building real capability. AI is not going away. The world is moving faster than organizations are designed to move. The investments are up, computing power is doubling every 6 months, and the boards expect results. We know that it's going to get more complicated. Complexity is the reality. The regulations are shifting around the world, and the old playbooks won't work anymore. AI is a strategic imperative. Most organizations, of course, are already experimenting with AI tactics, but only 5% are transforming strategically and finding success. And these leaders are generating 5 times the revenue increase and seeing 3 times the cost reductions. What's clear is that everything is moving faster. Everybody's feeling it. It feels like uncharted territory. Underneath it all the AI, there's an unspoken human reality that I've seen. There's some unspoken tensions that are keeping executives up at night and their employees as well. These are the human challenges that aren't being discussed openly. There's tremendous pressures. 77% of employers require AI adoption. So this is a high stakes environment. Leaders must navigate while managing profound market and organizational uncertainty. And this uncertainty creates fundamental questions about their future and their strategic direction. 70% of workers aren't prepared to use these new AI tools. This is creating a massive gap between the technological promise and the human capability. This insecurity is a deep anxiety about professional survival in many cases. Nearly half of leaders are worried about their jobs. And we're seeing all these human uncertainties playing out in the numbers. You've all seen the 95% number, how AI pilots are returning value in the first 6 months. Consistently, we see that AI pilots are stalling in the initial phases. Only 1% of leaders believe that they've reached AI maturity. On average, it's now taking 18 months to go from pilot to production. There's so many steps in the way that people don't consider, and we're going to talk about that in a minute.
And so, to kind of summarize what Sean has just shared is that the companies are moving fast, but the people are not moving together. The executives are telling different stories. The pilots are running in silos. Learning is staying localized, and the success depends on specific people, not replicatable systems. And most of the organizations are following what we call the tactical path. It skips foundational work, and it leads to that pilot purgatory that he mentioned. Now, there is a top 20% that are building an organizational capacity to learn and adapt and scale. And so we're seeing essentially these 2 paths, the tactical and the more strategic path. And so I'm going to walk through the patterns we're seeing between these 2. So the tactical path, where there's a high failure rate. The first stage is they're skipping the foundation. So there's a lack of executive alignment on AI strategy, a lack of personal use by those executives, and unclear success criteria. This means everything downstream inherits this weakness. And so when the executives don't model the AI use, the teams lack clear direction. In the second stage, we have disconnected pilots. They launch without preparation in silos, and the learning stays with the individuals. So success becomes person dependent. And when key people leave, that knowledge that they gained leaves with them. The third stage is that pilot purgatory. They show promise, but they can't scale what they did. So the success depends on specific champions. There's no systemic approach to replicating that success. So teams become confused about which approach to use, and the managers can't coach what they haven't learned. Those gains stay localized. The fourth stage is a failed scale attempt. So they try to scale without that systemic learning. There's confusion about the methodology. There isn't behavior tracking, and managers are unprepared to coach others. So these scale attempts fail because the foundation for scale was never built in the first place. This leads ultimately to the last stage, which is transformation failure. The projects stall, then they fade. The pilots never become standard practice. 80% fail within 1 year, and the organization returns to old patterns. And these are expensive lessons. And there's lost momentum, and the confidence in the executive leadership erodes. And if we look at the smaller group, about the 20% that are doing the strategic path, we'll walk through what they are doing successfully. And we're looking at this in terms of loops. So the previous group, they go with stages or phases. That's how often we look at transformation plays, but we like to think of them in terms of loops because loops are loops of learning and loops of iteration. And there isn't always a clear delineation between one step and another. There's often overlap. So what are the successful companies doing in the first loop? They're building that executive foundation. They have a clear AI strategy developed and communicated, and the executives model AI usage themselves, so there's clearly defined success metrics at the outset. This sends a strong signal that cascades through the organization. Teams see the leadership commitment through their own action and not just messaging. The second loop is creating organizational readiness. There's a partnership mindset established prior to pilot launch. The systems of trust are created, and there's manager coaching capability developed. So when pilots launch, the infrastructure exists to learn systematically and scale thoughtfully. The third loop is launching connected pilots with enabled managers. The pilots are launched with learning frameworks embedded. This allows success patterns to be documented, behavior change to be measured, and managers to be trained to coach that AI adoption. So pilots become more replicatable, they become playbooks, and the learning compounds, the success has a higher likelihood of transferring. The fourth loop is scaling with measurement and team adoption. So teams are trained on the proven pilot learnings. There are peer learning networks activated. There's behavior change reinforced, and the adoption metrics are tracked. So scaling can happen with less chaos. Teams know what to do because the path is more clear to them. And the last loop is sustained transformation. These pilots become standard practice. There's organization-wide AI fluency, and there's continuous improvement culture that's embedded. This gives them a competitive advantage. This allows the returns to compound, and that creates an organizational capability that persists. And we think winners build that capability. And the strategic path, it works because it creates three organizational conditions: adaptability, resilience, and confidence. I'm going to walk through what we mean by each of these. So adaptability. Adaptability is continuous learning loops, not just one-time training. And it matters because the AI requires organizations to learn faster than the technology is evolving. And it creates a capacity to experiment, learn, and pivot quickly. And how is it built? I mean, we saw it in that second path, right? Small connected experiments, feedback loops, peer learning communities, and a culture that doesn't just celebrate success; it celebrates failure. And then there's resilience. Resilience is trust and psychological safety that protect against risk. It matters because without resilience, the organizations break when the AI initiatives hit obstacles, and they will hit obstacles. Teams will become risk averse, shadow AI proliferates, and trust erodes. And winners build it by creating psychological safety to experiment. Embedded data security and bias mitigation, trust systems established before the pilot launch, and designing for organizational shock absorption because, again, they will hit roadblocks. And lastly, confidence. There's credible action under uncertainty. It matters because leaders must act decisively despite incomplete information. And the confidence comes from the clear signals, aligned messaging, and proven patterns. Winners build it by aligning executive messaging before external communication, very clear go, no go criteria for scale, tracking leading indicators, and communicating progress honestly, what's working and what isn't, because we are in a certain amount of uncharted territory.
So before we close, we have 4 sets of questions for you and for you to consider with a simple scoring system to indicate where you and your company are as you head into 2026. So if you can, grab some paper and a pen. And as we go through these questions, I want you to keep track of how many times you can answer yes, a confident yes. And remember, we're not going to ask anybody to reveal scores. This is just for you. So first is organizational readiness. Do your teams feel safe to explore, learn, and adapt when experiments don't land perfectly? Are systems of trust and transparency in place before new pilots begin? Do managers have the language and confidence to coach AI literacy in their teams? And finally, is your measurement framework focused on learning impact, not just tool usage or adoption? The second set is connected learning. Are pilot insights documented in ways that others can easily build on? Do your teams regularly exchange what's working and what's not working across the organization? Is progress visible not just in the outcomes, but in the behavior change? And are your peer learning networks active and supported as a part of everyday work? Scaling capability. Do you have simple living playbooks that can help others replicate what's working? Can success continue without relying on a few standout champions? Are adoption patterns visible and celebrated as they grow? And is impact building quietly over time, compounding through confident teams? Our last set is on executive foundation. Are your leaders using AI in small, practical ways to inform their daily decisions? Can your leadership team tell a consistent story about how AI fits your business priorities? Are there clear shared indicators of progress, not just adoption at the executive level? And is there visible follow-through on building long-term AI confidence across leadership? So go back and take a look at your tick marks and now tally up all of your yes answers to get a score to give you some kind of anecdotal data for you in your planning for 2026. Now, again, we're not going to ask anybody to reveal their scores, but if you would like to talk about your scores and like to talk about what we've talked about here and kind of where you're at, please follow through and talk to Sean. Let's set up a private one-on-one conversation.
All right, thanks, Greg. Yeah, as he said, if you'd like to go deeper, we do offer these executive AI reality checks. These are set up as confidential 90-minute conversations, and then we tailor those to your organization and your situation. Our next briefing will be in the first quarter of 2026.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
All right, you're still here. If this resonated, you can grab the report in the description below. It has the ARC framework, the self-assessment tools, and a 90-day action plan that you can work through. We'd love to hear what you're working on. Reach out anytime, and thank you for watching.